Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Talk to Me. This movie is directed by Danny and Michael Philippou, and the movie stars Sophie Wilde, Alexandra Jensen, and Miranda Otto. The plot of this movie is when these kids are at a party, someone brings along this embalmed hand, almost like a statue. It has a bunch of writing on it. But this hand is special because when the kids touch it and they say certain words, they're able to experience things from the afterlife: ghosts, spirits, incarnations. But when they say certain words, they can only hold on to this thing for 90 seconds. If they hold on to it for any longer, then strange, eerie, haunting things start to happen. Now, when I first heard about this movie, my only thought was, it's an A24 movie, I'm going to go see it. Because to me, they're the only production company that has consistently come out with movies that are original, that are one of its kind, movies that stay with you. Not only because of their independent film type of feel, but also because they tell stories, more or less horror movies, but stories that are different from what the average moviegoer experiences. It's not run-of-the-mill action or silly comedy or what have you, but their movies are different. They're unique. Hereditary, Midsummer, Invisible Man, Lamb, just to name a few. They're different. They tell stories that stick with you. So I had only seen one trailer for this movie, and going into it, I was like, all right, this better not be like Truth or Dare or any one of these stupid horror movies where it involves a bunch of kids you don't care about. They get killed off one by one because something is haunting them or driving them crazy or what have you. So, at the beginning of this movie, there's a certain scene that happens and you're like, oh, okay, all right, this is not what I expected. And then into the second act, I remember looking over at one of my friends going, if this movie has a Hereditary scene, if you've seen Hereditary, you know what I'm talking about, I'm out. And let me say that there are some heavy scenes in this movie, but overall, after I left the movie, when the end credits hit, I was like, I was impressed. And here's why. The first thing this movie had going for it is that all of the cast, at least to me, except for Miranda Otto from Lord of the Rings fame, was unknown. I didn't know anybody in this movie. And I like films that have unknown actors and actresses because if they nail their roles, if they're really good, then you see them having a bright future. It's better when you don't know the crew member or the cast member because a lot of times in movies that have ensemble casts, if you have a couple actors that are familiar or famous, you know that they're going to have a pretty big role, a very small role, or they're going to be important to the story, therefore they're going to be in it throughout the whole thing. And aside from the cast being unknown, you didn't know what to expect. It also helped that a lot of these cast members were around the same age, so they were believable as classmates, high schoolers, friends, or what have you. Aside from the mother figure and a father figure in the film, it's all kids. So when they act certain ways, you believe them because they're kids. They have never experienced anything like this before, so you kind of feel what they feel. But also, the horror in this movie is quite unique. Yes, I could compare this to stuff like Smile or It Follows, where somebody gets haunted by something and they just can't get it out of their head. But here, it plays on guilt. It plays on loss and mourning and missing of a loved one. This movie was so unique because there are things in this movie that aren't explained that if they wanted to make a sequel, which they could, these things can be explored later on. The acting from everyone in this movie was very good. Whether it's a character that has little to no dialogue, who's someone who the acting from everyone in this movie was really good. Whether it's Miranda Otto as his mom that has these really good wisecracks and threatens to punch one of her kids in the face. You'll understand the context when you see the movie, but it's in a comedic way. Or characters that have little to no dialogue. This isn't your run-of-the-mill horror movie. This is not one of those movies where a character starts to experience something, so they go to Google and type in what's bothering them or whatever, and you get, these sheets and pages and textbooks full of a reason or an explanation. No, these are frightened kids that have to figure out stuff on their own. And one thing I also really liked about this movie is that it wasn't a bunch of characters experiencing similar things to where they can kind of unite and try to figure out how to stop the evil or the bad thing. It was one character experiencing something that, she didn't know how to handle. And, yeah, just really good. This movie had scary elements to it. It had practical effects. It had situations where you're like, if I was in that situation, I would have no idea how to react to it. So you really feel for the character. Also, this movie, like Hereditary, has a lot of symbolic things in it. This is the kind of movie where after it's over, you'll discuss it with your friends. You'll converse with people. You'll watch analysis videos online to try to figure out what things represent what and what, the metaphors are and whatnot. This is a very thought-provoking movie. And it's amazing that this is the Philip Howell brothers' debut when it comes to directing. They were making YouTube videos before this. And this is their debut. This horror movie that's probably going to get a sequel that's doing really, really well. And I just think it's a claim to the cast and crew that this movie, that a lot of people probably dismissed as a movie that wasn't going to be very good, now people should go out and see this because this movie was scary. There are some brutal scenes in this movie. There is a scene, I can't tell you anything about it, but I'll just say if you've seen the end of Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the end of it, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's some brutal stuff in this movie, but there's also some scary stuff in this movie. And I like horror movies that are original, that are unique, and this movie is that. There are a couple horror scenes that only last a couple seconds, but because they do, they stay with you. There's images, there's flashes, there's pictures, there's sounds, there's things that you're just like, I'm not sure what I saw, but that was terrifying. Is this the best horror movie I've ever seen in my life? No, but considering I did not know what to expect, this movie was really good. So props to A24. Props to the cast and crew in this movie. Now, there's a lot of unexpected and original things in this movie, including a scene where I'll just say our main characters go to someone that could help them. Someone who's experienced this before. And it's really entertaining that this character is like, hey, pretty much, hey, I know what's going on. I know I could give you some answers and some reasoning as to why this is happening, but guess what? This thing messed up my life before, so see ya. You're on your own. That's what we get. And I really like that because in a lot of other movies, you get a character who's like a crazy old man or some loner kid at school that nobody likes who's like, yeah, I know all about it. Here's exposition. And they figure out how to stop it. Here, they don't do that. This movie subverts your expectations. And this movie is also a couple other movies rolled into one. I can't really tell you which movies they are in case of spoilers, but I will say it's like a scary version of Jumanji. Also kind of like Ghost with Patrick Swayze. That's the most I can describe it as, where it gives you a glimpse of what the dead go through and how they experience the living and vice versa. So, because this movie was completely original, the cast and crew were very good. Sophie Wilde as the lead, awesome. But I think maybe even better is this boy that's cast as a little brother in the movie. And just the physical things he had to endure in this movie and just the way he acted them, great job. And this just goes to show you that outside the United States, storytelling, tales, they're told differently. They're done differently. And a lot of times they're done better. So I like that this movie wasn't just a 100% American made horror movie because it would have been a lot different. So, because this movie is haunting, the music was almost like eerie violins met with like screams, where you weren't sure what you were hearing. You weren't sure if you were hearing sound effects in the house, or noises in someone's mind, or these faint screams of these ghosts or whatnot that are also lurking about. And it was very well done. And it had me and the rest of my friends who saw it talking about it after we saw it. So that's what movie making is all about. It's experiences and it's a bonding element. But this movie was really good, and I really hope they make a sequel because there is things they could explore going forward, including, the other hand, or the writing on said hand, if you will. So I'm excited to see what happens next for this franchise, but also A24 if we get more. So because of that, I'm going to give Talk to Me an A. Till next time.